I have been piping 2 Sloppy Joe sandwiches with the crispiest potatoes you will eat every day of the week. Each meal prep has 57 grams of protein and 640 calories, which will seamlessly fit into your nutrition goals and is packed with flavor in every bite. Let's get into it. The potatoes need some loving in the oven, so we will start with those. Get a sheet pan in an oven and preheat it to 450 degrees. I will explain why we do this later in the recipe. Then in a large pot, let's add 2,000 grams water, 30 grams salt, and 6 grams baking soda. The baking soda is crucial here to get that extra crispy crust. For science reasons, I don't know, but don't skip it. Major shout out to Kenji Lopez Alt, who did the science for this recipe, and I adapted it to make it much lower calorie and put my own spin on it. Anyways, we'll get the pot on the stovetop on high heat and give the water a mix so the baking soda and salt dissolve. Then let's put a small pot on medium heat right next to it. This will make sense later, trust me. My favorite potato for this recipe was Yukon Gold potatoes, but russets get the green light here too. Grab 1,200 grams of potatoes and cut them in 4 or 6 pieces depending on the size. It is important to have pretty big chunks of potatoes because we want the crust to be extra crispy, but at the same time we want a soft, creamy, potato-y inside. Most of the ones in my bag were about 3 to 4 inches long, so I split mine into 4. We'll place the potatoes in a large bowl and then prep our other ingredients while we wait for the water to come to a boil. First, let's tenderize our meat. This will help keep our meat juicy, and since we are using 96% lean ground beef, we need all the help we can get. This is way easier than it sounds, and all we have to do is add 896 grams of ground beef to a bowl along with 3 grams of baking soda. Mix the baking soda into the meat and let it sit while we keep the meal prep moving. Mince 8 grams of garlic into a small bowl. Then get 2 grams of some fresh oregano leaves as well as 3 grams of fresh parsley leaves on our cutting board. Chop them up and place them in separate small bowls. Then take 20 grams of olive oil or your oil of choice and add it to a bowl. At this point, our water should be boiling, so let's carefully add our potatoes in and give everything a quick mix. If you're wondering if you could skip the boiling, I would caution against it. Boiling the potatoes will both season and soften them, which is important for a flavorful, crispy potato when all is said and done. Set a timer for 10 minutes and we will move on to the Sloppy Joes. Chopping the vegetables comes first. Let's start with a large onion. Cut it in half root to stem and chop off about an inch from the stem. Peel back a couple layers of the onion and throw them out. Speaking of throwing out, I like to keep a trash can right by my side for the recipe because we will be discarding a lot of items as we go. Now point the knife towards the root and slice the onion every 1/4 inch from edge to edge as close to the root as possible. Then push the knife halfway into the onion at 2 or 3 different heights with the knife slightly angled downwards. Finish cutting the onion by going stem to root every 1/4 inch or so. We only need half the onion for this recipe, or 125 grams, so you could put the other half in the fridge and save it for another meal. Now let's chop up a bell pepper. You can use whatever color you prefer, but I like a green pepper for a more mellow, sweet flavor. Dicing this isn't so technical. Just chop the top off, cut the outer shell off one side at a time, and cut in pieces similar in size to the onion. Personally, I cut them into long thin strips and cut those strips into cubes, but if you like your joes with bigger chunks of vegetables, you do you. Just get 125 grams and push them to the side. I love carrots in my Sloppy Joes as they provide sweetness and a greater depth of flavor, so I will use these baby carrots and just give them a rough chop. How much? You guessed it, 125 grams. Lastly, I'm going to mince 15 grams of fresh garlic through my press into a small bowl. There is still a couple minutes left for the potatoes to boil, so we can quickly make our sloppy sauce as well. Into a bowl, we will add 256 grams no sugar added ketchup, 10 grams mustard, 30 grams Worcestershire sauce, and 30 grams brown sugar erythritol. I use this G. Hughes ketchup because it's only 5 calories per serving. And I also like my sauce a little sweeter, so if you don't like it sweeter, I would leave out the erythritol. Give that a mix, and as I finish, my boiling potato timer is going off, so we will get them in a colander and let them sit for 5 minutes. This will allow moisture to evaporate off the potatoes, which will help them crisp up even more in the oven. During this time, we can make our flavor-infused oil while preheating a large pot on medium-high heat. Take the 20 grams of oil and add it to the pot that has been preheating. Give the oil 15 to 20 seconds to heat up and then add the oregano to the pan. After 30 to 60 seconds, add the garlic and a small pinch of salt. I'll give all the ingredients a mix so the salt adds flavor to both the oil and aromatics, and while I wait for the garlic to brown, I will take a swig of my element infused water, the sponsor of today's video. Recording days involve long hours of work, during which I end up fasting for quite some time. Plus the Texas heat turns every workout, especially cardio, into a sweat fest, so Element has been my key to staying properly hydrated in multiple situations. Hydration is very important for several functions and isn't just about drinking enough fluids, but having the correct electrolyte balance too. A growing body of evidence has shown an optimal sodium intake of 4 to 6 grams, which is roughly 2 to 3 times higher than the current recommendations. What really stood out to me about Element is its 100% satisfaction guarantee and hassle-free, no questions asked refund policy. That's right, if you try Element and it's not for you, you will get a full refund. On top of that, using my link will get you a free sample pack of flavors with every order so you can see which ones are your favorite. Mine are currently watermelon and grapefruit, but raspberry is sneaking its way up the ladder too. If you want to try Element for yourself risk-free, click the link in the description and stay hydrated. Once the garlic starts to turn brown, strain the oil in the bowl we used earlier to hold the potatoes. Press down on the seasoning to get as much oil out of them as possible, and you now have an oregano garlic infused olive oil that is just another layer of flavor for our taste buds. Don't discard our strained aromatics though, they will come into play later. Add the golden beauties back to the bowl. Sprinkle 2 grams of salt and 1 gram of black pepper to the tatos and shake them up for about 30 seconds. We want to be a bit rough with the taters so a thick paste forms on the outside of them. Once the potats are looking like this, they are ready to get crispy. Using gloves, we will carefully remove the sheet pan from the oven and add our potatoes. Make sure one of the flesh sides of each tater chunk is in contact with the pan and then spread them out evenly. You will hear the sizzle as soon as you drop the potatoes on the pan, meaning the potatoes have already started cooking instead of being added to a cold sheet pan that has to heat up in the oven. Get those toddies in the oven and set a timer for 25 to 30 minutes. The quote-unquote hard part of the meal prep is over, and now all we have to do is heat up some veggies and beef. Into our preheated pan, we will add 10 grams of olive oil. Quickly follow that up with the onion, pepper, and carrots. Give everything a mix and allow to saute for 4 to 5 minutes, during which we can add 8 grams salt, 5 grams onion powder, and 2 grams black pepper to a bowl. Give the veggies a mix, and let's also get our cornstarch slurry ready. Into a bowl, add 30 grams water and 8 grams of cornstarch. Once the veggies have softened, create a space in the middle of the pan and add the garlic. Stir it around until it becomes fragrant and then mix into the rest of the vegetables. Add the vegetables to a bowl and put the pot back on the stovetop. After 3 to 4 minutes, we will add 10 grams of olive oil followed by our beef. Press down on the beef so that there is as much beef contacting the surface of the pan as possible. This will help create the most browning on the meat, aka flavor. There is boatloads of flavor in every recipe in my cookbook, from pizzas to ice cream to cheesecake. If you want to make weight loss easier than ever and get new recipes before they release on YouTube, click the link in the pinned comment and use code E4CM for 10% off the book. We'll allow the meat to cook untouched for 2 to 3 minutes, and then when our beef is looking like this, it is time to flip. At this point, we want to turn our stovetop down to medium and start dividing the meat. You can do this with a spatula, but this kitchen gadget is my favorite because it makes breaking down the beef quick and easy. After a few minutes, the meat is to my liking with small chunks and some bigger chunks throughout. Let's add the veggies back in and stir everything to combine. None of the ingredients have been seasoned, so at this point we will add our salt, onion powder, and black pepper to the pan. Mix everything together and allow to cook for 1 to 2 minutes. Add the sloppy sauce to our beef and give everything a mix. When the sauce starts to simmer, we will give our cornstarch slurry a stir until it is smooth and add it to our sloppy meat. Immediately combine and allow to cook for 1 to 2 minutes. This slurry will thicken our sauce and make it foolproof, even if we had a little too much liquid in the pan from our meat and or veggies. Add the sloppy meat to a large bowl and allow to cool and thicken up. The potatoes are ready for a flip, and I know that because the sides that are touching the pan have already taken on some color. Using a glove, carefully flip these onto another flesh side and place them back in the oven for 20 to 25 minutes. Since everything is finished, I have some downtime to do the dishes, which once I get the meal preps packed up, the kitchen will look like it did before I started cooking. And 20 minutes later, our potatoes are looking like they just came out of the fryer. Listen to what they sound like just moving on the sheet pan. For one last pop of flavor, we will add these back to the bowl and add our oregano, garlic, and parsley. Give them a toss-a-roo and allow them to cool for 5 to 10 minutes. I personally eyeball the portions since the calories will be the same at the end of the week, but in case you wanted an estimate, each container will have about 280 grams of sloppy bros and 115 grams of crispy tatos. When it is time to reheat, you can pop open the sides of the containers and microwave for 2 minutes. However, if you want the Tay-Tays crispy again, you should throw them separately in an air fryer at 400 degrees for 4 to 5 minutes. Then load the sloppy seconds onto 2 low-calorie buns. I'm using these 50-calorie keto culture buns from Walmart, and for about 50 extra calories, you can add 7 grams of cheese onto each one. We now have a pound of food to eat for just 640 calories, and the flavor is a 12 out of 10.
Increíble.
Not having to think about what you are eating makes dieting so much easier. If you make this buffalo wing meal prep alongside this sloppy Joe meal prep, you will have multiple meals prepped throughout the week. The wings, fries, and sauce are made from scratch and will have you feeling like you are eating wings from your favorite spot. Until next time, deuces.